There were at least 9 iterations of the 2600 over a 10-year period, and you'd have to be a monotonous nerd to go through them all. So here we go. The first model was the 2600, nicknamed the Blue Marvin after their then Chief Financial Officer Marvin Cohen. Rarest of all, only 2 dozen or so were made. One person to get their hands on a Blue Marvin was composer and performer Don Muro.
I went up to visit them, and they were in that big garage. Dave Friend and Alan Perlman, I met them for the first time. And then there were people in the back on stools with soldering guns, basically putting instruments together, putting 2,500 modules, I guess, together. And that's what they had available to show me, and it was like $7,000. It blew me away, but I couldn't afford it. But Dave Friend said to me, well, let's keep in touch because we have some things coming down the pike, and I think you'd be interested in them. I got a call later on from, I think it was Dave, saying that Walter Sear, who was already selling Moogs in New York City, he said to go in and check this out. So I went into Sear Sound in New York, and there was 2600. And I played with it, and I said, I've got to have one of these. And I basically called Dave Friend up and begged him. I said, I really can't see life without this. And he said, well, we do have some early models, quasi-prototypes, that we're just going to get rid of. I have one left if you're interested in it. He said, it's a metal case. I said, I don't care if it's a rubber case, I'll take it. So for $1,200, I got a Blue Marvin 2600. And that arrived in July, and I basically lived with it for a couple of months and did my first demonstration performance with it in the fall of 1971.
Don also experimented with recording the 2600 for the first time later that same year. And as well as recording, Don took this new technology out in public for performances and workshops, which received mixed reactions.
I remember doing a showcase once, talking about electronic music, at a major music education university. I'm not going to mention names because bygones be bygones. One professor had his back to me the entire presentation. They were sitting at round tables. It was after dinner. It was a lecture demonstration on the new world of electronic music. This one elderly gentleman sat with his back to me, sipping his coffee the entire hour. But it was never. I guess they saw it as a kind of us versus them. But it's all music, and it was just too big a step, I think, for a lot of people who just grew up in a strictly acoustic classical world. So I understand that. But the early days were pretty hairy at a couple of spots.